On today's episode, Alan and I are going to be previewing the 2025 Tournament of Champions. You're going to want to hang tight for this one.
You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coonhounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years.
Welcome back to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. This is Trevor Wade. I'm the Coonhound Program Manager here at UKC, and I'm joined today by the Director of Hunting Ops, Alan Gingrich. What's going on today, Alan?
Well, not a whole lot. You're back in the office again. We're down here in the studio. We don't get to record these in the studio every week, but so it's always better to do it down here. But hey, springtime seems to be just around the corner. We've had some really nice weather up here in Michigan the last couple of days, so a lot of exciting things. Tournament of Champions, all the entries have, advanced entries have closed for that now. It's been an exciting week for us up here in the hunt office.
Yeah, it's just a fun time of year. You've been getting kind of ready for NHBA days and Hunting Beagle Nationals coming up, and then helping me with TOC regions. You'll have your Clash of Champions regions as well. And man, I love this time of year. It's a lot of work. We've both been burning the midnight oil in here a little bit this week trying to get everything out, but it's a labor of love. And when you guys are listening to this, should be on your way to the TOC regions, and we'll be jealous. We'll be in here plugging along on our computers, keeping everybody updated at home. But
yeah, we do put in the overtime sometimes, don't we? What was it, Monday night? I think I was here till 7 or 7:30. You were here you were still here when I left.
Yeah, me and the cleaning guy got to say hello and bye whenever I was walking out, but I was glad I didn't have to try to work the keypad to lock it up in here, so I was happy for that. But yeah, it's fun stuff, and I'm really looking forward to the next several weeks. And like I talked about in the little opener there, we're going to be previewing the Tournament of Champions, and man, we could spend hours and hours doing this. We're going to try to keep it a little bit under control if we can. Sometimes we might struggle with that, but we're going to talk about a number of qualified dogs this year, kind of break that down, take a look at our regional entries, because we do have that. Entries closed as we're recording this, just on Monday of this week as we're recording, so that's all fresh on our minds. Going to get into some kind of need-to-know stuff. So you guys will want to hang tight for that. That should be in about the middle of the episode. And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about the kind of brief history of the Tournament of Champions, the new Tournament of Champions, the 2020 model. And it's going to be a fun podcast for people to listen to, I think.
You did a little breakdown of some of this stuff, a little 3 or 4 part series that you just posted on your own Facebook page of the first 5 years of its history, and that was really good. And I urge folks to go check out your personal Facebook page for that, and pretty cool.
Yeah, I tried to put it on the forums as well, so you can also check out the forums. But anything to kind of get, sometimes you got to try different things. The algorithms on social media, get it to the top of people's profile so they don't miss. So we tried everything we could to get everybody to get entered, and it doesn't always work out. We put it in every means we had necessary besides going door to door and knocking on doors. But
that's about right. Monday was a great day. I was surprised with we had 799 entries by Sunday night. So the last day to enter was Monday. Yep. So we took 120 call-ins. A lot of them are call-ins. And that was just all day on Monday, which that's perfectly fine. But people wait till the last day and the last minute. I literally took one at 4:30. Thank you, Chris Simmons. Calling him out here. Yeah. He's lucky he even caught me here at that time. But then we had several on Tuesday that did not get in. The next day, realized it was the day after, and that always stinks for us. We took a couple of them that were pretty disgruntled over it, and just don't understand why we can't make any provisions, But if we did that, we'd still be making those arguments today and probably leading all the way up to it, But you mentioned we've done everything short of putting it out there, everything short of knocking on people's doors, you feel like, and we really have. It is not hard to find information for the Tournament of Champions. Go to our website. You can always do a search, Tournament of Champions search. It'll take you right there, But, I would like to have everybody that wanted to get in. And there were a couple that really wanted to and just for whatever reason missed the deadline, But, hey, we've always been pretty strict on that. You got to have a deadline at some point. Might as well make it on the advertised deadline, yeah. Let's talk about some of this stuff, Trevor.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's first talk about it in a broad sense, talk about the 2024 qualifying year. And, man, it was a great year. Obviously, last year we had 1,404 qualified dogs, which was a high for us in the short history of this event. First time over 1,400. And sometimes you're excited about that number, but it's hard not to look forward and say, man, how are we going to top that next year? And it was kind of right away. We kind of change over to the next year after the finals is over. So about middle of April, I'll switch over to the next year's, and I track it every 2 weeks. I update that list, and I kind of track on where the trend is compared to the previous years. And I could tell that this qualifying year was ahead the whole time, and we ended up just shy of 1,500 dogs. I kind of wanted that 1,500 dog mark, but 1,491 total qualified dogs is nothing to scoff at, and it's a number I think we could be proud of. The entire hunting ops team is excited for that, and I text all the field reps. They're all excited as a company. We're excited and proud of that number. So I think that's a great testament to this program working, and hopefully the clubs out there are reaping some of the benefits of this as well.
Yeah. Yep, and that's 992 that entered then.
Yeah. So let's take a look at those 1,491 qualified dogs first by breed. I kind of have a little bit different view than you. I was able to, just before we come in, pull in some of last year's numbers, and we had some good numbers here. The thing that stood out to me just looking at it here, 996 tree and walkers qualified for this thing, which is actually a 61 dog increase over last year's number, and that eats up a lot of that 90 dog increase that we saw over the previous year. And it seems like they're knocking on the 1,000 the 1,000 barrier there just as a breed, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But English 184, blue tick 125, black and tan 90. You got the red bones with 42, crossbreds with 37, plots with 15, and then 2 leopards qualified for this thing. And the rest of those were pretty close. English up 12, blue ticks up 7, black and tans exactly the same as they were. Red bones up 7. So when you talk about going from 35 last year to 42 this year, that's a pretty good increase there. So that's always kind of interesting to look at. The sex breakdown kind of lopsided here, as it can be sometimes with females coming in season and having pups in a given year, things like that. 871 males versus 620 females that were qualified this year.
Yeah, what I want to add to that. Oftentimes you see a little bit of a lopside like that, but for some reason, let's look at what that number looks like when we get to the top 96.
Yeah,
I'll bet it will be a little more even. Oftentimes it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be wrong this time, but oftentimes it has a way of kind of evening out more.
And then when you get to the top 24, it may look a little more even even yet. So,
and then we'll have three females in the final.
Yeah. This time of year, the biggest thing is trying to get them into the hunt. I know this is kind of the season for females to come in season. So if you can kind of make it through that, you're in good shape.
Well,
I always like taking a look at the states, and I was always kind of prideful of that too when you look at it and your state performs well. And we actually have the exact same top 5 as last year. Kentucky leading the way with 158 qualified dogs. Indiana with 134, which is actually a big increase for them. That's 20 dogs more than they had last year. Ohio third again. I think that's always been the top 3. And then Missouri and Tennessee right there over 100. They've both had slight increases this year. And they've been 4th and 5th the past couple of years, and those are kind of your usual suspects there at the top.
Sure is. An honorable mention, West Virginia just under the 100 dog mark, and that's the dogs that qualified ahead the 5 cast wins. 90 or that are in this whole thing here that qualified. I guess 97 there, followed by North Carolina 75, and then you have Virginia in the lower 60s.
Yeah, and I did want to, like you mentioned there, I got some information here that you don't have privy to you over there, but West Virginia, that's a 20-dog increase for them over last year, which is the biggest jump for any state. 2 other states we'll mention before we move on. Alabama, and maybe this is why the Arkansas region saw a big jump in entries this year, but Alabama had 15 more entries than last year with their 61 total, so that's a big jump for that state. Yeah. And Iowa, man, there's just not a lot of clubs in Iowa, but to have 54 to be up there above Illinois and Pennsylvania and even Arkansas and states like that, 10-dog increase over last year, I was really impressed with that. So congratulations to the Iowa folks.
Don't skip over Oklahoma. They had 62 of them too, so they're up there in the 60s as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of interesting to look at those state breakdowns. But
one in California and one in South Dakota. I'm going to say Dr. Alan Halata out there in California always gets his name on the list somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't know the South Dakota dog, but you are right about Dr. Halata out there. Yep. And kind of to put a bow on this section of it here, we're going to talk about the top cast winners of the year. And in the past, we've done just a top 10 of any breed, but we did this like mid-year, and I think it worked out pretty well. So we're going to kind of mirror that here at the year end and talk about the top cast winners of the year of each breed. So about a top 3 of each breed here. And I'll start us off because I got the top black and tan dog, but not only the top black and tan, but also the top cast winning dog of the year. And this is Grand Night Champion McPherson All In Double Deuce, a dog that was born in September of 2021, male, owned by Charlie McPherson of Fordyce, Arkansas. And this dog's been on a little bit of a roll. It was 4th last year in these standings with 22 cast wins, 35 this year to take the top spot. And congratulations to them. They seem to win consistently no matter where they go. They go to a lot of major events across the country, South Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee. They go to World Finals and have luck and things like that. So congratulations to that duo on a great year.
Yep. Second on your list here with 15 cast wins last year is another male, is 2016 male out of Bearden, Arkansas. Another Grand Night Champion Hall of Fame dog, a dog named Hayes' cousin Charlie, owned by Jeff and Jordan Brown. 15 cast wins, puts him in number 2 for black and tans.
Yeah, and they were actually 3rd overall last year with 23 cast wins. I wanted to give them some flowers on that for the consistency. 3rd place in the black and tans, we have Grand Night Champion Carpenter's Black Knight. That's a male black and tan hound born in September of 22, owned by Junior Carpenter of Broadhead, Kentucky. 13 cast wins this year.
Yeah, there you go. Mentioned leopards. We only have 2 leopards in the hunt. We'll have both of them here. Obviously, the only 2 to be on the list. The top dog had 7 cast wins last year. A dog out of Science Hill, Kentucky, born in 2017. Grand Night Champion Ralph's Crispy Fried Bacon. I think we hear that name. Have heard that name a couple times here in the last couple of years. Hunter Sneed. Out of, as I mentioned, Science Hill, Kentucky.
Yeah. And then a fellow that we talked about a lot in our Reproducers series, Mr. Wayne Bowman in Whitwell, Tennessee, has a female named Night Champion Bowman Sundown Dusty, born back in 2021, who got 5 cast wins this year to get qualified and make it on the list as a top cast winning leopard.
Yep. Top blue tick last year with cast wins. Had 21 of them. Is a dual grand champion, also a Hall of Fame Dead Creek Gambling Ace HTX. This dog it's a male owned by Andrew Backstorm of Richton, Mississippi. 21 cast wins.
Next one here, this guy just continues to churn out good dogs year over year. Mr. John Stieber down in Olney, Illinois, has another one. This is Grand Night Champion Lonesome Blue Boy, born in November of 21. 15 cast wins this year for Blue Boy.
Yeah. Northeast Ohio, Ashland, Ohio. Maybe not who you might think from that area, but 13 cast wins. Grand Night Champion closes,
Yeah.
Closest, Bubba Blue. Dog, about a 3-year-old dog here, 3 or 4, coming 4-year-old this year. Male owned by Jacob Close, Ashland, Ohio. 13 cast wins.
Congrats to the Blue Ticks here. We'll shift gears to the top cast winning English hounds of the year. And leading the way was Grand Night Champion 2, Champion Tall Oaks Ricky. It's a female born in 2022, owned by Russell Malcolm of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. 16 cast wins.
Yeah, 14 cast wins for second here. Grand Night Champion Blue's Amazing Grace. She's a 21 model female owned by Trevor Hack and Thomas Miller. Thomas Miller, when he was a baby, was our next door neighbor just across the woods off the back end of our property there up in northern Michigan. But, Amazing Grace, 14 cast wins. Marengo, Ohio is where they're from.
Also tied for second here with 14 cast wins, we have Grand Night Champion Main Street Frank. That's a male born in 2021, owned by Johnny Roberts down in Greenville, Tennessee.
Yeah, then the third one also tied with 14 cast wins, Timber Crush and Rhino's Rip, another 21 model male owned by Sean Sanford of Adairsville, Georgia.
Move on to the plots here. Go ahead. Y'all good? Moving on to the plots here. Tied for first, or actually got a couple here tied for first for the plots. The Night Champion Ferguson's Redwood Sassafras. Female born in November of 2021, owned by Jeremy Ferguson, Mark Ferguson, Jacob Coons. Looks like the Fergusons are from West Columbia, West Virginia. 9 cast wins this year for Sassafras.
There you go. And also tied for that top spot with 9 cast wins, a 2020 male owned by Jerry Holbrook Jr. of New Lexington, Ohio. And that is Grand Night Champion Holbrook Stringin' Banjo. 9 wins.
And then third place for the plots this past year was Four-Way Grand. You got the field the Grand Field, Grand Water, Grand Night, and Grand Bench Show champion, Bear Pen Fever, HTX, got them all. An October 2021 model male owned by Mark Miller and Steve Fielder. Mark's in Taylorsville, North Carolina. Steve's down in Florida enjoying the sunshine. Fever had 8 cast wins this year.
He's gone to the dogs. You might have heard of that podcast there. But, yeah, hey, congratulations, Mark and Steve, on that. Nice job. Red Bones, moving on to them. 13 cast wins leads the way for that breed. Gray Night champion, Midnight Burning Ranger. He's a 2022 male owned by Travis Sturkis of Albany, Missouri. Leads that pack here for Red Bones.
Second place for the Red Bones with 12 cast wins in 2024 is Grand Night champion Ragin' Red Banjo. Male born in March of 2020, owned by Coulter Sumter of Whitesburg, Kentucky.
Yep, and then rounding out third with 11 cast wins is the night champion Crazy Mountain Midnight Daisy, a female born in 2022, owned by Tim Chase of Reed Point, Montana.
Walkers are always ultra competitive, as you might figure. We have 3 of them here with over 20 cast wins each. First, actually tied for first here, we have Grand Night Champion Hall of Fame, Charles Tree Singing Skybow. Born in April of 2022, this female is owned by Ryan Charles of Van Sant, Virginia. 24 cast wins, and actually last year this same female had 22 cast wins to be 6th place overall. So a good run for her.
Pretty doggone consistent, huh? Then another one tied with 24 cast wins. Dog out of Centerville, Texas. Grand Night Champion Hall of Fame. Swamp Thing Honey, we've seen this name before, I think. Born in 2020, a female owned by Stacy Smitherman and Brian Loggins. 24 cast wins.
Yeah, we did. Actually, the top cast winner of last year with 38 cast wins last year. So, again, very consistent winning hound. And third place in the Walkers was Grand Night Champion 2, Wicked Ridge Rockin' Rowdy. A male born in February of 2020, owned by John Wages of Grayson, Kentucky, 23 cast wins.
Yeah, then we have one other category here, the crossbreds. Here we have leading that field is going to be a dog with 16 cast wins, dog out of Columbia, South Carolina. A male born in 2018, Grand Night Champion 3, Lights Out Sniper. That is owned by James Thomas.
Second place in the crossbreds here, Grand Night Champion Mojo Money's All Night Preacher. February 2022 model, owned by Draven Sullivan and Michael Bates, down in Batonia, Mississippi, with 15 cast wins.
11 cast wins is a dog out of Cascade, Wisconsin, owned by Savannah Brooks and Aaron Rummer. That's going to be a field champion, water champion, night champion, Thin Ragin' Sally, born in 2022, 11 cast wins last night. Savannah Brooks, Aaron Rummer.
I just want to take a time to thank everybody for competing in UKC license events throughout the year. 1,491 qualified dogs. I'm sure there's some others out there with some heartbreakers with 3 or 4 cast wins who tried to make a run at it. But remember, qualifying for 2025 has already started, January 1 through December 31 this year. Get those cast wins early and don't wait till December. So, but now let's talk about our regional entries. Again, 922 total entries.
What did we have last year?
850 last year was our previous high.
So that would have been high last year, and this, kind of busted it right out of the water here.
Yeah, and like you said, I was looking at it Friday evening, kind of just I was processing some of them, want to stay on top of it because I knew a lot would come in, but I was a little bit discouraged where we were sitting at, maybe like 650 as of Friday evening. But as coon hunters do sometimes, and I'm as guilty as anybody, procrastinating a little bit, and I like to have a little pressure on me, saying enter in the last minute. But man, again, thank you guys for entering up. 922 kind of blew I wanted 900, and we blew past that pretty darn easy. So thank you, everybody. We'll first mention the breed breakdown here again. So in our regions, that's going to happen March 28th and 29th. So when you're listening to this, it's going to be this weekend. So I hope you guys got them hounds hunted up and you're ready to roll. But there's going to be 46 black and tans competing. Both leopards are competing. 82 blue ticks, 109 English, 6 plots, 19 red bones, 634 tree and walkers, and 24 X-breds.
There you go. And then the sex breakdown looks like this. 576 of those are males, 346 females.
Our top states represented are about what you would think. Again, you got Indiana is actually the leading state there. They got those dogs entered up with 102. So So awesome job to Indiana, Kentucky right there in second with 91. Ohio with 80, Missouri with 59, West Virginia with 58, and Tennessee with 53. So the top 6 is all there, maybe a little bit different order. But then I was surprised to see South Carolina. They were a little bit down the list on number of on the qualified dogs. Not all the way down, but 4 or 5 under where they are now, and 46 dogs entered. That's a good percentage of that state entered up.
For sure. Yep.
So. And there's a pretty cool graphic on the UKC Coonhounds Facebook page with the numbers for each state and each breed and all this. All these breakdowns are on there and some pretty good looking graphics. So shout out to our media team for that. But go check it out. Hopefully you've already seen it. It's already caught your attention. So.
Yeah, so let's break down the regions a little bit. We have 6 different regions this year again, where these dogs are going to go to compete at. They can choose what region they go to. They do that when they send in their entry and everything. And Region 1 is out of Kirksville, Missouri. They've got 170 entered there. And the way the breakdown works and everything, we're going to advance 18 out of that region there. And that's going to be hosted by the Northeast Missouri Coonhunters Association for the 3rd year in a row now. Got John Higgins Jr. over there, Zach McBee, and it's held at the Northeastern Missouri Fairgrounds. And you talked to John and Zach quite a bit.
Yeah, both of them, they're kind of my contacts for there. John's kind of a big picture guy for me, and Zach, he's going to work on getting those guides lined up for him, because that's the most dogs they've ever had there in that region by 5 or 6 casts. So it's going to take some drumming up some people, but
good place to hunt.
He didn't blink when I told him he's ready to roll, and he thinks he's got a good beat on it already.
Yep, and got our good reporter and field rep Master Hounds, Mr. Tim Gilchrist, running that show over there this year at Kirksville.
He'll keep them in line up there. Region 2 going to be for the 3rd year in a row in LaGrange, Indiana, hosted by the Northeastern Indiana Coonhunters Club. And again, they had their largest region entry to date this year with 164 entered. And the way that breaks down and with our percentages, 17 hounds are going to advance from that competitive region. Jay Miller is who I deal with primarily there at that club. Also, Tracy Thompson, I know, helps him a little bit from the reading club with the cast coming north. They're both very familiar with a lot of the clubs and the hunters in that area, and I know they're not too worried about getting all these dogs in the woods. They have it there in the LaGrange County Fairgrounds, which is a place you're pretty familiar with. I know you have contact there. You talk to a bit, but
yeah, it's right off the toll road, 8090 toll road. There, just a little bit north of there, probably a matter of about 8 miles north of there. And a good central hub too. There's a lot of good right in the middle of some good support clubs in the surrounding areas within an hour of there, and yeah, they'll do a good job. A good place to have a hunt.
Yeah. Doug Cundiff's going to be the field rep there for us, putting on that hunt, and some people might get a little intimidated by 164 entries when they see that number, but for Doug, that's just another weekend for him. He's used to putting on events of that size and caliber. Nice
fairgrounds, nice community building where they have everything in there. I think 2 years ago when I was up there, might have been last year when they had the zones, and man, it's just awesome feeling to walk in there on a Friday night, and everybody's there's a lot of anticipation.
The buzz in the air.
Buzz is in the air, that's for sure. Region 3 is going to go back to Mount Gilead now for the 5th year in a row. 240 entered this year. That might be down a little bit from what they've had, but that's a number that they can handle. 25 of them are going to advance out of that region, the most of all, because they've also have the most going in there. Morrow County Coonhunters Association is the host club there. It's kind of ran there by Mr. Mark Bear, Rick Stretch, Perry Edmond kind of run that deal there, held at the Morrow County Fairgrounds. We've had the World Championship there several times. They've had a lot of events, big events there. So I'll always do a good job, and expect nothing less this year. Jamie Eastep's going to be the man in charge and taking care of the doing all the Master Hound stuff and eating all the donuts they can throw at him.
Yeah, and you mentioned that 240 would be their second largest, actually back before we added the 6th region they had over in the 290s, but we'll get to the history of the event soon. But yeah, that's a really good number, and you'll see there 25 advancing. You can about chalk it up to right around 10% because of the way the numbers play out, so it's going to be competitive to make it through, so it'll be fun to watch. Moving on here to Region 4, going to be down in Decatur, Tennessee. 123 dogs entered into that region. 13 are going to advance out, and it's going to be hosted by a very strong club there in Eastern Tennessee, 10 Mile Hound Association, for the 2nd year in a row. Alan Roberts is my go-to guy there. I talk to him pretty often, known him for a long time. Meigs County Fairgrounds is there in town. You can't miss it. And Brandon Scalf, our field rep from Eastern Kentucky, will be down there mingling. They have a good relationship. Those two, they've worked together a lot, and you can bet they're going to be in some good hunting and well fed. Sounds like.
Yep. Hey, Region 5 is going to be in Conway, Arkansas. We've had the 5th year going to be there. Headed there every year. So appreciate those guys over there at Conway. 140 are going to be entered in Conway. Conway this year. 14 will advance out of that region. It's hosted by the state association, actually, there. Travis Goodman, there's our contact there, and it's held out of the Arkansas Wildlife Management Building. And Mark Vest out of Paris, Texas, is going to be up there officiating that one for us this year again.
Mm-hmm. And then our 6th region for the 2nd year in a row here, going to be in Manning, South Carolina, hosted by the Palmetto Coonhunters Association. We had 85 entries into that region, and 9 dogs will advance out of there. Nelson Gibbons is the guy I talk to most down there, who heads up everything with us, and they have it at a really, really nice facility called Buck and Bull Farms. Philip Foster, our field rep that'll be working there, has a lot of good things to say about that place, and
a lot of people do.
He's a South Carolina guy, and he tells me that right here around Manning, South Carolina is the best coon hunting in the state. So I would say he's kind of an expert on that, having lived there his whole life. So,
yep. And then we have, so those are the 6 regions, and the finals are going to be held 2 weeks after 2 weeks. So there's a week in between the regions and the finals, and we go back to Greencastle, Indiana, to 3 Fat Labs for the 5th year. Every year it's been there. 96 of these dogs will advance out of the regions and be in the money of this $250,000 purse again. Our guide support comes by way of the Deer Creek Coon Hunters Association there in Greencastle. Doug Cunniff, Tyler Pettit, Cody Carter, Bob Stallcop, and the whole crew there at the club. Again, 3 Fat Labs. It's kind of those who've been there, obviously know what it's looked like. It's kind of a wedding, an estate wedding and event type barn there. But just a beautiful place. The setting is just great. You won't go driving back out of Greencastle. You kind of go through Greencastle, drive out of town, maybe 2-3 miles or something like that. There's a couple different ways you can get to it. There's one way along the river, about a 2-mile little drive along the river, a dirt road. And when it's nice, that's a good way to go in there.
That's the preferred way.
It is a preferred way. You just get that feel, that atmosphere it just has that perfect atmosphere. Get back in there, just kind of away from everything else out in the country like that, and it's a nice deal. Deal.
We got a good group of field reps coming with us there to the finals this year. Obviously, Doug Cundiff is the local guy, and he'll be wearing multiple hats while he's there, but he will be representing UKC at least a little bit in our panels. Philip Foster from South Carolina will be there. Jamie Eastep will be playing double duty as he has the past couple years, where he'll be officiating some nights, and he'll be on the live show, Mr. Commentator on a couple of the nights as well. And then Mark Vest, it'll be his first time there out of Texas, and I think he's kind of excited to come. I'm excited for him to be there.
Yeah, me too.
Like having all the reps there for their first time. And Curtis Sparks, he kind of took a little vacation on us to get all his retirement stuff out of the way, but now he's back on board, and he's been here with us for the TOC finals before, but he'll be there keeping us all entertained. So good group of reps, and we'll talk more about the finals later on. We want to focus on our TOC regions here, but that'll be coming on a later episode when we talk about all that good stuff. Hey, Alan, I don't know if you've been messing around with this new Houndsman Advantage app at all, but I've been playing with it some, and it has some really cool features on it. One, it has the interactive scorecard view where you can assign strike and tree points at the touch of a button, and it automatically totals your scores after each set of points are scored and valued.
Yeah, no, I like it as well. Some of the features that I like is that you can access the rules, and that it comes with a search function to easily find any specific rule. Also like that there's a place for your dog's registration numbers, and you can store pictures of your easy entry cards. I like that you can track 2 dogs' performances when out pleasure hunting. You'll find some analytics on your dogs. You can record their accuracy, win percentages, and a whole lot of things like that.
No more lying here on this app. The last thing about the scorecard I'll talk about is it has the summary view as well, where you can see the total points you have and the pending points that you have, along with tree timers for each dog. So it's going to come in handy for judges as well. So check it all out on the new Houndsman Advantage app.
Yeah, so every year we get a bunch of questions. We always have a frequently asked questions on, I'm not sure where all you post that. It's usually in the magazine or on our website, Facebook pages and stuff like that. But can we cover some of those here maybe?
Yeah, I didn't want to go through the entire FAQ. We've kind of done that for TOC in the world multiple times, but that frequently asked questions page and the TOC official rules both live on the TOC webpage. Like you say, it's been linked on our social media a couple times, and the rules are in the magazine every month, so you can always frequent that anytime you look through those things. But there are a couple high points I think we need to hit on. First thing everybody needs to know, if you're entered into the TOC, you need to be at your region to check in and confirm that you're there with the Master of Hounds before 5 p.m. local time each day. So know whether your region is Eastern or Central time. Get up there, check in. They're probably going to ask you who's handling, if you have a backup handler, all that good stuff. Get that taken care of, and give yourself a little bit of time to work with here. Don't have your ETA to be 4:55. That way, if a train stops you, you're late. Give yourself a little bit of time to work there.
Give yourself a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah. Get there and get checked in, and then you can rest a little bit and hunt.
Yep, and I'm just going to reiterate again, that is on each day. Same thing, same procedure on Saturday. What they do is when you come up to confirm, they're going to pull your entry to put it into the draw. If you don't confirm, your entry is not going to go in the draw, and if you don't do it by 5 o'clock, you're not going to go into the draw, regardless of what you did Friday night.
Yep. And new to this hunt this year, we felt it necessary to make this
right
change.
Here.
Yeah.
Very important. Listen in, guys.
Yeah, so we're going to actually replicate the regions off of the World Zones, and this has been advertised in our TOC rules that have been in our magazine and on our website. So any dog being scratched or withdrawn from the hunt at any point on either night will be eliminated from the Tournament of Champions. Same as the World Zones. I know a lot of people are familiar with that. It's going to be the exact same as that. And hey, the zones have been around since 1988. It's worked. It's tried and tested. We wanted to try this different way. Last year, we had a double cast winner who wasn't able to make it through. I think we both lost a little bit of sleep about that. It didn't sit right with us. I talked to the guy on the phone. Not easy, not easy thing to discuss with him. Want to avoid it at all cost. It's never happened at our zone since I've been here, since you've been here either.
Never has in 20 years that I've been here.
The only difference between the zones and this was this little caveat here, so we decided to replicate it and hopefully avoid that moving forward.
Yeah, so that's very important. Even if you don't do any good on Friday night, if you're behind, whatever, don't. If you want to hunt on Saturday, you can't withdraw, because a withdraw or a scratch at any point, whether it's Friday, Saturday, or any point, eliminates you from the competition period. When you withdrew or scratch you are at that point withdrawn from the competition.
And that's a dog or handler related scratch and offense.
Yeah.
Just to make that abundantly clear. One thing we get a bunch of questions about, so hopefully we're able to answer that for some people here. There's no spectators at any part of the Tournament of Champions here, regions or finals. We have what we call the backup handler here, and that should be notated on your scorecard. The backup handler here, we'll talk about the regions first. It can either the backup handler can either sit at the trucks or go with you to the woods into the field to hunt.
And one of the things that comes up all the time at everyone, somebody wants to make a provision or something for maybe because we have a young kid or my wife and the kids want to just sit in the truck. They're not harming anybody. Well, that is not, that violates the rule. No spectators, just one backup handler, period. So hopefully we'd like for people to understand that and not even ask for that or ask somebody to put them in that position, because guess what? You're going to take your dog right out of it, really.
Yeah, like you say, it can be tough to tell somebody their kid can't go sit.
Sure.
Or I talked to someone the other week, and their elderly dad wanted to go along with the backup handler. What I would tell them is, there's thousands of events every year. There's events every weekend within driving for most people. This one here is is a little bit stricter. It's a part of somebody earning $50,000 and a pretty prestigious win here. And sitting this one out, it won't be the end of the world, I hope, for anybody. But if you make one exception, then where do you draw the line as far as exceptions go?
Here's another thing that I always look at a little bit. If we allowed the regular 2 spectators per cast in a hurry, instead of having 5 or 6 people out there in a hurry, we can have 14 to 15, 16 people out there. And it's just too much sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's why the World Hunt's another one that's like that. But yeah, one backup handler that may sit at the truck or go to the woods, their call.
Yep. Let's move on. Advancing dogs. So how do we advance the dogs out of here? It's going to be consistent with how it's been. Obviously, we know the number of dogs advancing from each region. The first ones to be considered for advancing will be the double cast winners. After that, we'll go to single cast high scores. Remember, if you have a single cast high score on Friday and you end up withdrawing on Saturday, you're eliminated from competition. So you have to get a single cast high score and then also make it through the other hunt on the opposite night as well. So do remember that and keep that in mind.
Yeah. Another one is that we get a lot of calls on is what kind of championship wins do these dogs get if they win their cast here? Well, if plus point cast winners do in fact get a cast win towards the dog's degree on Friday and Saturday. If they have double cast wins at the regions, they're going to get 2 wins on the dog's record as well.
And it counts towards the TOC next year. So you can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Yeah. Hey, one other thing I want to point out here. We talk about full elimination rules, and I don't want anybody to get caught up in that. Full elimination rules do not apply at the regions. They won't apply until we get to the finals. But you have to hunt the full 2-hour hunt in order to be considered a cast winner.
And let's just briefly touch on judges here, hunting judges for regions. Once we get to the finals, we will be having non-hunting judges. Obviously, we work hard to get the best non-hunting judges we can. A lot of times, once people lose in the regions, they may cancel their vacation from work or make other plans than that. But hopefully you guys will help us out a little bit, help me out, and won't ignore my phone calls when I call you after the regions to see if you'll come judge for us, because man, we need some good ones. And if I ask you, that means I think pretty highly of you. So hopefully you take it as a compliment.
Yep.
Let's talk about the history. You mentioned the little mini series I did there on my Facebook page the week heading into the entry deadline here, and it's kind of fun to look back at it here about some of it, and I can't talk about what happened before it, but you can maybe a little bit about I hear about it sometimes about the round table at the Winter Classic where maybe this was born, or maybe even before that.
Yeah, the idea, or an idea that was the start of this idea, happened there at that round table. And it was in 2018, you're right, at the Winter Classic, which happened in February, I guess. We invited some guys to come there and sit in on a round table discussion. I think it might have been on a Thursday night. And we gave them plenty enough time to, just start thinking a little bit. And the idea was, what we wanted to talk about, and the topic to be was, how can we generate more entries for the clubs? You know, a lot of times the dogs finish out or whatever, they're pretty much done unless it's a world qualifier or going to a state championship or Automokes and those type of events. Other than that, the clubs don't really see any of those dogs. So what can we do to maybe draw some more entries for the local clubs, and overall, does that matter? And so at that meeting, I remember that's kind of where the idea came from, that, hey, how we need to get these grand nights, dogs that are finished, need to get them in, and we need to maybe something that would pull in some of the guys that like to hunt for money, maybe. That we don't normally get at the local club. There's really no reason for them to go there. And that's how, with that, first having those discussions and kind of targeting those 2 groups right there, this is where the whole Tournament of Champions eventually was spawned there, I guess, so to speak. And eventually it was born in 2019, but it was kind of targeted for those 2 groups. Get the Grand Nights back in, a reason for them to qualify, make it a qualifying requirement. So they're going to have to come back in to make sure they get those 5 cast wins. And then that second group, which is guys that like to hunt for money. And to get that, guys that hunt for money in today's age, even more so than it was in 2020, they have a lot of opportunities. And we already knew then that it had to be huge.
Yeah.
Had to be huge. And for UKC to basically not have any money hunts at all, and then to go to Autumn Oaks in 2019, have this thing written up. I still remember getting up there in opening ceremonies on Friday night with this little sandwich sign that we had made or whatever, and pull that out and hey, this is what's coming down the pike, guys, and something new. And at that time was $200,000 purse.
Exactly right.
And I remember it was deathly quiet.
Very quiet.
It was very quiet.
And then all of a sudden a little murmur, almost like people saying, "What did he just say? Yeah. What is that little sign up there saying?"
Yeah. So that was 2019 at Labor Day weekend of 2019, so in the fall. Yeah. And then the first year of qualifying for this to get your 5 cast wins would have been in 2020. Yeah. And then the first Tournament of Champions regions and finals would be in 2021.
Right.
Well, so we go into 2020, all these high expectations. Everybody's fired up. Get your 5 cast wins, and everything's going fine till about March when Mr. Fauci came around with his COVID.
That would have been me working here about 6 months, maybe at that time, maybe 6-8 months. That was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because we're on the hook for that already. It's already been advertised.
Guaranteed
that money's
purse.
guaranteed.
Guaranteed purse.
So it doesn't matter if 30 dogs qualify for this thing.
Yep. And then a lot of events got canceled because of COVID. And wow, what do you do? We had to kind of move on. And but then towards the fall, we started having some events again. And really, I think this program alone, the fall of 2020, was huge.
Yeah.
Hunting is one thing that you could still kind of do. I might not have been able to go uptown. Everything was closed off, but I could certainly take my hound out back and run dogs.
Absolutely.
Things like that, And when we were able to have some events at clubs and things like that, the guys went out in drones. That fall was huge. And really, for the year, this program alone really kind of saved us for that year.
Yeah.
Now, we certainly didn't make up that $200,000 that year, to go into the fund for it, but it all worked out, and it has grown to what it is today.
Yeah, that's a good.
But
way
that
to
was
say
the start of it, basically.
Yeah, that's right. and you're really worried, and then whenever the dust settles, it's almost the other way. We ended up with 1,028 dogs qualified that first year, and I think that kind of might have blew any projections that we had put together and presented to upper management out of the water.
Totally.
Yeah, and honestly, it put us into a little bit of a scramble mode. We worked pretty hard and thought about it a lot and had a lot of conversations deciding we wanted 4 regions. We wanted them to be almost a square in the United States where everybody would have a reasonable distance. And we worked hard securing these locations and had conversations with people.
Really, the first idea was to have a northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest.
Yeah, and they're still kind of named that today if you look. And whenever we were getting there and we see how many dogs are qualified, pretty quickly we had to get on the horn and try to find another location that worked. And luckily the people there in Kentucky kind of pointed us in the direction of Lancaster, and some conversations with the club down there, some people that we're familiar with working with in the past. They host a lot of events down there in the state of Kentucky, and man, it worked out pretty darn good. So that first year, 1,028 dogs qualified, 655 entered into the different regions there. We talk about how amazing it is this year to have 922 and almost 1,500 qualified, but we're talking the COVID year that was in 2020. We still qualified over 1,000 dogs. Just think about that. That's just still amazing to me, and it didn't happen until. Okay, the first 2 months of the year, which January is obviously pretty slow overall, January, February, March, April, May, June are the biggest, months for coon hunts. And we didn't really have anything to start with until about September-ish, really. Yeah.
So that just gives you an idea of how good those events were and the numbers were. And the hunters just went out in droves trying to get these 5 cast wins that first year. Still amazes me.
Yeah. Our original locations, Troy, Iowa, up in the Northwest, a strong club up there. They decided to have theirs in Bloomfield at a fairgrounds there. They ended up with 122 entries that first year. Mount Gilead, who still hosts a region to this day, had 229 that first year. So they're kind of used to that number over there in Morrow County. Like we mentioned, the state association, we wanted a place in Arkansas, but what's the right place? And they kind of really like this Wildlife Center in Conway, Arkansas, which there's a club there. It's kind of central. They can go in any direction and have guides in every direction. They ended up with 104 dogs that year. And Comer, Georgia, Mr. Philip Foster is a member of a club down there near Comer, Georgia. He had the World Finals there back in 2017, so you kind of saw that club in action firsthand. They ended up with 93 that first year. And then the fifth added region that kind of came in at the very tail end of it was Lancaster, Kentucky, like I said, and they ended up with 107 dogs on short notice. So it was successful. I think we spread it out pretty good there. If you look at those numbers, you got to be kind of proud of where we put those locations at.
Then the other thing that was different early on in that first year, we didn't take 96 dogs.
Right.
Took 64.
Yeah.
64 dogs.
Yeah, 64 dogs to the finals, and it started out as a 2-day event, and it was that for a couple of years. How we did it is a Friday we just had one round with 16 4-dog casts, and then on Saturday we had 2 rounds. We had 4 4-dog casts early, and then we had our final cast late. And that first year we did a bit of a live show with Steve Fielder was there, and dang nabbit, what is J. Paul?
J. Paul.
Yeah,
J. Paul Jackson.
So that was our first kind of crack at that, and I think we've came a long way on the production side of that, and the things we're able to do, and the things we thought up. But that was a good start, and still, I would be interested to go back and watch that. I know we've tweaked a lot of things since then, but still proud of what we came up with that first year without having really any knowledge of what it would look like.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and it really came together there at Three Fat Labs like that. I had the set, the live stream set up back there in the corner. It was loud in there.
Service wasn't very good.
Service was terrible.
Yeah.
Really struggled with it there, but yeah, we've, like we said, you learned a lot. Probably got a lot better at live streaming, doing some interview stuff that we do, and have made it what it's become now. And I think every year it's just gotten better. Hopefully, even this year we can improve on some things. And as you and I know, sitting here, we're not going to disclose anything, but we've had meetings here in the last couple of weeks about one of the things we're working on. So we hope it'll come into fruition, maybe. But it's pretty amazing what this TOC has been good for us for sure, and the sport. I feel like, and a lot of people deem it to be one of the premier events in the industry.
Yeah, kind of a must to attend.
Yep, and it's and I just love that we have. It seems like this is an event where it just brings in everybody, regardless of what they prefer as far as registries or type of events and this and that. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You don't hear anybody talking about, this over that and da-da-da-da-da. It is genuinely a great event and just a great atmosphere, and with one thing in common, and that's just, we all love to coon hunt, and it's about, you would think $250,000 on the line. When you're there, there's a lot of talk about it before and all this. When you're there at the event, at the finals, how many people do you hear really talking about $250,000?
Right.
Hardly any.
Yeah, that's correct.
Everybody's just enjoying themselves, and you'll just love that.
The atmosphere,
win or lose, to be there is just awesome.
Yeah, and you make a good point, and I think that's what resonates the most with me is that when you look at the pool of the region entries, it goes from anything from a who's who list of money earners in different registries to a guy I may talk to on the phone who is hunting the first dog he's ever had and got his first cast wins ever and is giving this thing a shot, and that's fun for me. And hey, I guarantee the finals will have several of both of those type of handlers there at it.
Yep.
So that first year, you mentioned $200,000 total purse, $50,000 to the winner. Our big winner that year, and I will not soon forget it. Grand Night champion Stover's Charlie Creek Bad Butch, owned by Bill Stover and handled by John Irvin. What a cool moment!
Yeah, it was. Bill Stover, he's a hard. I don't know what you would call him. He's a tough dude.
Yeah,
he's a tough dude. That was all tears that morning.
Yeah.
And just and his dog Charlie Creek Bad Butch, our mascot, our logo of the blue dog with the long ears. That dog we call him Butch.
Yeah,
so
we sure do forever.
Named him after that first winner there, so that will be that logo dog that you see for tournament champions. We call him Butch.
Yeah. And what a cast he beat, really. Yeah. Night champion, the American Power Trip, owned by Ashley Guthrie and handled by Daryl Main, was in that final cast, along with night champion Stevenson's Willow. We know what she's done, owned and handled by Kevin Morehouse. And Grand Night champion 2, Rolling Hills Rock, owned by Rick and Skylar Mick and handled by Skylar They're out in Kansas, and just some of the best folks you'll ever meet, and still enjoy talking to them from that day. And I actually met them on that final cast,
Yep. And then the next year, the first year was okay. We didn't make up all of that, but the next year we had another great year. 1,336 dogs qualified. 796 entered in the regions. We changed the whole format to now take 96 dogs instead of 64.
Yeah.
Made that change there, and we also upped the overall purse to $250,000. That second year already. But
do you remember that pitch that we put together in the truck on the way back from some event to try to get it up to 96 dogs and 250,000? I was so scared to go into that pitch, and then our upper management was just like, yeah, I think we can do that.
Yeah.
And like you said, the first year was the COVID year. The numbers really didn't back it up of what we thought, but I think our projections told us this could be a game changer for us, and that meeting wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it might be.
Yeah, I do remember the meeting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, we had the exact same 5 regions, and this year is the year that we thought, man, Mount Gilead, 289 entries, because this is a huge jump. Think about it. You're gaining 150 entries here from the past year, and all the regions were up, but Mount Gilead up to 289 is almost a number that we don't want to see a region at, because that's hard to manage, not only for a club but for our event official there and everything. Yep. And those 96 dogs that advanced to the final this year, our format, we had 4 rounds over 2 nights, and it was a long weekend. We had our round of 96 and our round of 24 on Friday night, and then our top 6 semifinal early on Saturday, and our final cast late Saturday. And
2 long nights.
We were zombies by the time that was over with. Yeah. And probably as good of a final cast as you can ask for an event like this if you're trying to get eyes on it, because it was 3 pretty well-known dogs, and 3 well-known handlers. And our winner that year was out of a world champion that was still fresh on a lot of people's mind. It's still fresh on people's mind today, mind you. Grand Night Champion 2, Willie's Conor McGregor, out of the world champion Rackham Willie, owned and handled by Mr. J.R. Gray himself, ended up bringing home the $50,000 that year.
Yep. One of the things I remember about that live stream of that final cast is the film crew we had out in the woods, and had that long, they zoomed in out across this creek or whatever that was out there. Had a dog treat over there, and that was, I forget how many yards. It was a long stretch over there.
Yep.
But how they could just really zoom in right there, and you could see the handlers over there shining that tree. And I think was it Dominic or Conor McGregor that was on that tree? I think it was
Conor McGregor.
I thought it was on that tree. But that, I'll always remember that shot of that live stream. I thought, man, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And that was further than people realized that it was.
I think that,
but that camera guy could really zoom in on that from a good distance away.
Thinking back on it, I think that live show in particular is where I kind of thought, man, we could really, really do something here. And I think that was looking back on it, that's probably one of my favorite live shows we've done. It really showed us what we're capable of doing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And to mention the other dogs on that final cast, to finish that thought, Night Champion Thunderbird's Dominator, who has just won a pile. He was owned by Cole McVeigh at that time and handled by Mr. Joe Manning, who's just as nice as a guy as you can ask for.
Yeah, one of the other things that I remember about that was Joe Manning that night. When he came back in from the semifinals, you have that walk in that they're at 3 Fat Labs, kind of a walk down towards the building. And it's nighttime now. It's, midnight or whatever time he came in. People know, hey, one of the casts is back, and this winning dog is going to he's coming in for an interview. He's got the handler's going to have the dog. And guys lined up out there on that sidewalk, and here comes Joe Manning with Dominic. We still have those pictures, just the high five. That's just so awesome.
It's a special moment.
It is, and people are excited for him. It's a big deal, and people are excited for him, and you just don't see enough of that at these hunts, but that was just true people, supporters, and it didn't matter who. Here's a guy from Texas that, some people know him, some people don't, but it goes both ways. But yeah, how awesome. Good stuff.
That was awesome. And then the other semifinal cast, if you don't remember, this little female here, Grand Night Champion Tracker's little Piper, made the huge comeback against, I think it was Zach McBee's female.
It was.
And was down early, and I think she might have got out of pocket, and Piper just popped them up left and right. And we had heard that, and we knew she could do that. She has that capability when she gets into a pocket of them.
That's when in the heads up, that was a heads up round.
Yeah. and a Piper owned by Ike Rainey and Malcolm Raines at that time, and handled by Dual Murphy, who's just a big name in the sport as well. And there was a lot of eyes on it that year. And I think that year did a lot for us, really.
Mm-hmm. Sure did. Yep.
Alan, you've been feeding Eukanuba dog feed for a while now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have, and I've really been able to put my beagles to the test, mainly running snowshoe hare up north where they run the hardest, where I put 15, 20, 25 miles on them easily in a day. And I've found that the premium performance sport has really paid dividends. Mainly, I noticed their stamina.
Yeah, same feed that I've been feeding. I think my dog looks good on it. He's really feeling good, and less kennel cleanup for me, so I highly recommend it as well.
Eukanuba, the official performance dog nutrition partner of UKC.
That was year 2. Year 3, about the same number of dogs qualified, almost the same number, 1,333, 3 dogs less.
Yeah.
So it was very similar to the second year. 804 dogs entered to the region. So there we busted 796 in year 2. Now we're up to 804. So just a little bit better. Nothing to write home about as far as breaking records, or anything. But had one location change, added one region, and that was La Plata, Missouri.
Yeah, we moved the guys up there in Iowa. You know how it is putting on these events. They kind of wanted to step back a little bit. La Plata, Missouri. Actually, Kirksville. It was supposed to be in Kirksville, but the fairground got double booked, so they moved it down the road to La Plata, which is very close. So same clubs, same people. John Higgins and Zach McBee kind of handling it there.
Yep. And then the other thing we talked about, Morrow County, Mount Gilead. Yes. They were had a lot of entries, and so that's where we also added LaGrange, Indiana. That third year kind of takes some of that load off of Ohio.
Yeah, and look at this spread here. This is something you want to see when you're putting on an event. Missouri 147, Ohio 173, Arkansas 119, Georgia 103, Kentucky 136, and then that new Indiana one kind of getting its feet under it with 126 dogs. And we made the change to the finals, which I think has been the best move, kind of almost making it just like the World Finals a little bit. It was a little bit different this first year. We had one round on Thursday, and then one Friday, and then we had the 2 on Saturday because honestly, the year before, that live show on Saturday night with the heads-up round and then the final cast had been so successful for us, we wanted to run it back. And one other thing that changed this year was our new rule book came out. And in the World Finals the previous year, 2022, we had the issues with some dead cast, and this is the first time that our actual full elimination format rules went into effect. Would have been at this TOC finals.
Yep.
Again, we had, and it seems to always be the case, we had a star-studded final cast here. The winner was a really, really well-known dog at the time, and a dog that's entered in this year. Hobo is, and actually Butch is as well. Grand Night champion Strix Hard Times Hobo got that $50,000 that year, owned by John Strickland, Doug Galbraith, and Ashley Oxendine, and handled by Mr. Jeff Ricklefs.
Yep, I've known Jeff Rickless for a long time, since the old Hardwood Henry days, back in the day, a dog he had in our World Hunt, and did a lot of winning for Jeff. And Jeff was really one of a handful of what we would call professional handlers. That was his job, and actually pulled a paycheck from it, but so Jeff is still at it. He lives in the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, and I was tickled for Jeff to win that. And of course, John Strickland, Doug Galbraith, actually, they're just first class people,
Absolutely.
But Hobo was our third winner. Hard Times Hobo.
I remember walking my gut out on this final cast this year, and I think it turned. This is the year that we found after those 2 rounds on Saturday night, and then walking my guts on this final cast, I realized I had tested positive for COVID, and it all made sense because when we were loading up the truck at what time does it end up being, 6 or 7 a.m. that Sunday morning after both rounds were early, I could barely stand up. I felt bad, but I was about just gassed out.
Yeah.
But man, that was a good final cast. Another good group of dogs here. Hobo ended up defeating that night champion Little Joe, owned by Jeff Stallard.
Big name in the sport.
Yeah, Rick Marshall and Randall Drew on that dog with Jeff Stallard, and handled by Casey Stallard. And then we had our first non-tree and walker finalist. It was a blue tick from down in Texas, night champion Rockin' R Honest Crowder, owned by Kevin Rash and handled by Travis Deal.
Yeah, just a diverse cast, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, it really was. You know, and you know, one of the things that this event also has done, I feel like, just these, especially when it gets into the semifinals, the pictures that are taken and how our media team has, you know, created these portraits, if you will, of just the way they put everything together, like for just a promo of the dog. And go back and look at some of these. That's just pretty awesome for a Coonhound. Some things we've never seen and had before.
Yeah.
You know, and now that live out there forever. Really.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, well.
And then going into year 4, you know, almost.
Hey, one other thing I will say. Travis Dill here, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I had never met Travis Dill before this. He comes here with a blue tick, does good, dances all the way to the final cast, you know, and he's the $20,000, the $30,000 winner.
Yeah, that's right.
He wins the $30,000. He gets a big, you know, Happy Gilmore check and everything. You know, a couple of days later, you know, he's got it posted all over where he goes home. He's got his wife and kids in his man cave or whatever, taking pictures with all this, the dog, these checks and everything. And just like, man, how that's the real deal right there.
It is.
It just tickled for somebody like that. Yeah. He didn't win it all, of course, but he was happy to win that $30,000 and it was just awesome to see.
Should be.
It should be, absolutely. Yeah. Just like the year before. So, you know, we mentioned Joe Manning. He didn't win it either. He was he might have, I don't know, was he second or third?
I'd hate to even say.
You remember dogs that were in the final cast and everything, but you certainly remember the winner, but you know, and the rest doesn't matter. But just same thing with Joe. Hunts a lot of money, has won a lot of money on his way home. Takes a picture out there with his little sign next to his truck and everything.
Yeah.
You just remember those things.
For
Pretty
sure.
Cool. Good stuff.
For sure. Going into year 4, I was almost wondering if we had hit our peak or if we were stagnant a little bit, you know, after 2 and 3 being so similar in numbers. But in year 4, we got a pretty good bump up to over 1,400 dogs for the first time. So a good 70 dog increase here to 1,404 qualified dogs, and actually jumped up from 804 entered in the regions in year 3 to 850 entered up into the regions in last year's hunt. And that was a number I was super happy with. All the regions were pretty split even here. We had a few changes. We obviously Kerrsville, Missouri stayed. Mount Gilead, Ohio, Conway, Arkansas, and LaGrange, Indiana stayed. We had 2 new clubs. Decatur, Tennessee came on board, and Manning, South Carolina both took their reins for the first time last year. Decatur came in with 139, Manning 63. And I wanted to mention they have everybody you talk to in South Carolina talks about how that's some of the premier hunting in the state, if not the premier hunting in the state. And I think some rumors out there about their hunting got out, and I think it circulated a little bit. This year they have a pretty good increase, and I'm glad to see it because that club has put the work in and they deserved it. Mm-hmm. We changed the finals slightly. 1 round on Thursday, 2 on Friday now with the round of 24, and then the heads-up cast late. And then the main event on Saturday night, 1 round. We're down to 3 dogs. We can kind of focus on that live show being about the final cast. And I think ultimately this is the way it's going to stay for moving forward.
I'd say so.
Yeah. And this cast, I won't soon forget this cast. I remember being a little bit stunned. In the first 30 minutes, you would have thought it was over. You would think Wipeout Z had the cast won and it was done and over. Freak of Nature got a little bit hung up where he was at, making a couple trees. And the maxed out Mad Money dog had accrued a little bit of minus and was Z treeing a couple coons. It seemed like it was completely out of reach. And then you just saw the maxed out dog make that incredible comeback, and then I want to try to think back to that moment. There may have been 12 minutes left, and we've completely walked through these woods. You know, we're 1.5 miles from the truck, and we're just on this branch here with a couple trees along it, and just field as far as you can see in any direction. And both of these guys cut their dogs loose, and they go complete opposite directions. Do you think they might get struck? But I think we're about done with the scoring for tonight. And both of those dogs were treed within 5-6 minutes, and it just kind of was incredible to me to see the dogs with that much hustle and heart do what they were meant to do, and ended up having to go and score both of those dogs to determine the winner. And I won't kind of forget that. But the overall winner that year ended up being night champion, maxed out Mad Money, and he earned every bit of it. A hound that was owned by Travis Black and handled by Dustin Weed. Rounding out that final cast, like I said, night champion Heather Island, Wipeout Z, one of the top money earners of the Coonhound world ever, if not the highest. I'm not sure of those of other registries rankings, but a dog that you've seen just about anywhere in every registry. He comes to win, owned by Ike Rainey and Malcolm Raines, the Heather Island guys down in Florida, and handled by Oliver Wynn, just one of the nicer guys you can ask to be around.
Yep.
And then rounding out that final cast was night champion Freakin' Nature, owned by Walter Hickman down there in Southeast Tennessee and handled by Josh Craig. Dog likes pizza.
Yeah, I remember that he did the semifinal or the final cast interview, or one of them. He interviewed that dog, and we had some pizza in there, and boy, that dog was out of control almost. Hey, but I will say this, I do a little bit of bid spotting kind of on the side somewhere. So I was just last week, as we're recording this, it would have been last week. I was in southern Indiana at a horse sale, and I was working the ring doing some bid spotting, and there's a second row in. I saw some guy wearing a PKC hat sitting in there, and I kind of had noticed him or whatever because of that or whatever, and he's like, hey, he said my name and stuff, and he says he's got his phone out, and he gives it to me. This dog? Said I'm hunting this dog. He got him in the final four of a hunt recently, I guess somewhere, but he said, this dog? And I looked at him, and it was out.
Oh,
is who it was.
Yeah.
So they've sold this dog. A guy by the name of Leon Marner down in southern Indiana bought this dog now.
Yeah.
So it was a guy, I forget his name now, but he's handling the dog for Leon.
Yeah.
So he was showing me this. It's like, that's last year's TOC winner. But you mentioned Dustin Weed, winning this too there, and Dustin's won. Geez, he probably won more money than anybody in the industry. He's won a lot of money. But you could tell this event really, it was, even for somebody like him, it was. You could tell it was different for him, and he genuinely enjoyed the platform of it, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. But
And now look at us this year. I'm sitting there last year and beginning of this year. It's like, how are we going to top this past year? And then we come in this year with 1,491 qualified dogs, up 87 there, 922 entries into the regions. We're up 72 there. And I'm excited. I'm tickled.
Yeah.
But then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how in the world are we ever going to get past these numbers? Have we hit our top? Or can we ever even get there again?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I'm always a quality over quantity type of guy. I just feel, and I don't, I think we could handle some more the way we've got it set up. And we rely on a lot of people, a lot of clubs that help us, and from guides, judges, everybody, officials, and all that. And clubs around the country and everything. But it's still, it is a big number. But I think we do a pretty doggone good job with everybody of also keeping that quality where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Now, I know one thing with some of these numbers, you're talking about Ohio, Indiana has a bunch, and, Kirksville, Missouri, really, but sometimes that you have to drive a little bit. Not everybody's going to have a 10-minute ride to the woods, and I think most of these guys understand that, and here's the other thing, too, sometimes, it all depends who you are, and I guess maybe the type of dog you have, but sometimes if you have to drive an hour and a half to go somewhere to hunt, and you do get into good hunting or whatever, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Over maybe something close that you really struggle.
Yeah. The dogs get out
of it. But yeah, so how awesome. Tournament of Champions just turned out to be just a great event, a great program, great deal. And here we are. It's upon us again.
Yeah. I was kind of sitting here thinking about the 5 years I've been here, and we're kind of going through memory lane here. And I think of it had to be, I've had a lot of great times. And I think two of the probably top 5 moments I've had was obviously the first year I'm sitting down there on the floor, and they've moved the live show for the TOC finals has gone back to the hotel there in town, and we're sitting there. There's probably 10 or 12 of us gathered around and just kind of sitting there watching it on TV, and like, I can't believe we actually pulled this off.
Yeah,
I remember thinking about it, like that was a very cool moment to be a part of. I remember. I still got some pictures that I took there of like super proud of that, of us being able to pull it off. And then being up there in the parking lot at TOC, it's happened a couple of times now. There's typically a cast that hunts just across the road over there. We're out in the country where we are, and there's a cast that sometimes gets up over the ridge over there, one of the guides, maybe one of the combers, I think maybe. And if a dog gets up on that hill just right, you can sit there and listen to one tree as they're probably out of pocket from the cast, but we can hear them pretty good from where we're at, and just – we love hunting, and we don't get to go hunting as much as we want to on these casts because we got other things to do, sitting in there and taking care of things organizationally. But sitting up there in the parking lot and hearing a dog treat, and there's 10 or 12 of us up there huddled around just to hear a dog treat, just love the sport. And I don't know. Those stand out to me for some reason.
They do. And there's, people and things like that, only 5 years in now or whatever, but there's already people and dogs that stand out. Obviously the winners, we talk so many times in this sport about events where you can't remember there's so many events anymore, and you don't remember who the winner was, and hopefully we do this enough justice that you do remember who these winners were, and I think we do for sure, there's a lot of money. We talked about that. There's a lot of money, and that's what pulls a lot of them in. But at the event, we don't hear people talking about the money. It's about, at the end of the day, really, it's about probably about something else. It's about the dogs and the people and the sport that we love, really, is kind of at the top of everything that's about the Tournament of Champions. So
well
but
said.
and then there's other dogs. Another one that comes up to mind is Mr. Caleb with the Preacher Man dog. And it's a crossbred. But it's just like, before this TOC, I didn't know much about him or his dog or whatever. And there's one that's, just when I think of the TOC, for some reason, I think of that dog. But just, and he's not wanted, but I know he's another one. He's coming back. He's going to try it again.
And gals like that are fun and easy to remember and easy to deal with because they're gracious and winning is the guy who's made it to the top 6 of this and to the final cast of the World Championship. He's gracious when he wins, and boy, he's just as graceful. If he gets beat in the first round, he'll come and tell us how much fun he had before he hits the road.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's also why you remember folks like him.
But hey, like I said, as you're riding to your region event, hopefully you're listening to us right now. Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation, and man, I hope you have a good time and you have a good hunt, and I hope your dog performs how you want. But remember, it's just a dog, and if you make a mistake, you're just a person, and dogs and people make mistakes, and things will shake out how they're supposed to. But you got some good luck for us, and maybe we'll catch you in Greencastle. Thank you for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss any of our new episodes or content.